Welcome to Daily Life Connection. Thanks for joining me again today. What a journey we're having exploring the heart of God in the great story that Jesus told in Luke 15. I don't believe that there's any other story in the scriptures that more richly and vividly portray the heart of the Father for us. Jesus was passionate about people knowing what his Father was like, who he was, and how he operated. And he told this story to make sure they understood. I want to focus on the part today where the Father says he restores him to full family status. And by putting the robe on him, it's a family robe. The people who would recognize, that's my son. And I want to talk a little bit about that. And so with the ring and the sandals, and then he declares he's my son. But I want to focus today on that robe that the Father gives to the Son. And again, and I know we talked about this, but it was urgent. Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put it on him. Clothe him with it. What a powerful picture that is of God clothing us in his righteousness. In Corinthians, we read that wonderful passage where he became sin who knew no sin, that we might become the righteousness of God. He has given us his righteousness. You see, God doesn't come to help us be more righteous. He doesn't say, I want you to try harder to be righteous, and I'll help you. He says, you know what? Your very best efforts are going to look like this kid's rags. They're going to stink like pig pens. Paul says, our righteousness, anything that we can do to make ourselves righteous, to live righteously, holy, godly, it only stinks like rags, like garbage. That's why the Father says, get the robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put it on him. So can you see that the servants come, they know what the best robe is. They know the Father's best robe, the one he wears for only very special occasions. The one that when he goes through the town, people are going like, wow, that's an amazing robe. He is one well-dressed man. That when they rush in and get it, they carry it out with honor and dignity. And as the son stands up before his Father, they take that robe and they put it around him. It goes down over his shoulders. And it covers all of his dirt and his filth. And it's like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you tell the kid to get cleaned up and then put that robe on him? You're going to get the inside of that robe all dirty. But here's the thing about God's righteousness. It is so powerful. It cleanses us. It cleanses us. Interesting story back in Haggai. This is a bit of a rabbit trail, but I'm going to go there anyway. Back in Haggai, there's an interesting passage that talks about if anything is ceremonially unclean and it touches something, whatever it touches also becomes unclean. There's a power of infection there, if you will. But it says those things that are holy, when they touch something unclean, the holy thing doesn't become unclean, but its holiness is so powerful it makes the unclean thing clean. Oh, isn't this awesome? When that robe of righteousness goes on that kid, it transforms him. The robe doesn't get dirty from the kid's filth. All the kid's filth becomes cleansed by the power of the righteous robe that the Father puts on. That's what the Father does for you and me. He puts his robe of righteousness on us, and it cleanses us and purifies us. Wow. Folks, I think sometimes we are afraid that our mess-ups are going to somehow taint God's holiness and righteousness. It will not. His righteousness is so much more powerful. Do you think do we think we are so almighty that I can sin in such a way as to taint God's righteousness? Really? We're just not that big and powerful. And our sins and errors and failures, yes, they're horrible, but they have nothing in comparison to the power of the righteousness of God to cleanse us and make us pure and holy and righteous before Him. The Father brings out the robe of righteousness. That's the heart of God. The heart of God for you and for me today is that we be fully righteous. Because in righteousness there is joy, in righteousness there is peace, in righteousness there is rest, in righteousness there is right relationships. That's the Father's heart for us. And as we come to Him today, let's just say, Father, clothe me with your righteousness. Clothe me with your righteousness. And you know what you're going to hear? Quickly, bring out the robe, the best one, the robe of righteousness, and put it on my son, put it on my daughter. And then you know what? We need to go through the rest of our day trusting and believing we are clothed with the righteousness of God, the goodness of God, the holiness of God. It clothes us, and it's cleansing us, and it's making us more. Oh, there's so much about this robe thing. The Father, when He puts that robe on the kid, if the kid walked down the street, you know what the people would go say? Oh, there goes, and they would name the Father, because they always saw the Father in that robe. The one wearing that robe had to be the Father. He never let anyone else wear it. But now this Son looks just like His Father. Excuse me, that's what this robe of righteousness does. It's God's heart to clothe you and I in such a way that we look just like Him, restoring the image that He created us. He created us in His image. He's restoring that. He puts the robe of righteousness on it. A little bit longer again today, but this is just so powerful. Our Father has a heart to get you and I clothed in His righteousness. He's passionate about it, urgent about it. Let's take a little time today and spend some time in His presence, just letting Him enrobe us. And let's live the day robed in His righteousness. God bless. We'll talk again tomorrow.